So thank you guys so much for coming. I mean, I literally cannot do this without you because part of my requirement is to preach it in front of people. So thank you for playing your part. Yeah, and so today we're going to look at a familiar psalm, especially if you have gone to the service at Chapel Street. But before I begin, I want to just pray before we spend our time in God's Word. Father God, thank you so much for who you are and just what you do for us and just how you put things into place, put things in motion. Any words that are not of you will be quickly forgotten. Any words that are from you that come from my mouth, may they be remembered and pondered upon to understand how great you are. I love you, Lord, so much. In Jesus' name, amen. So, in Harry Potter, which is a series written by J.K. Rowling, in that series, she puts, so there's 7 books of the series, and in the 7th book and final one, she puts Harry to face death. There's no way around it, there's no point, just has to face it. And part of it is to go into the Forbidden Forest. He gets into the Forbidden Forest, he starts to have these visions. But they're not really visions, they're of ghosts. They're not just of random ghosts. They're actually people who Harry loved, and those who love Harry most. And those were his parents, his godfather, and also his mentor. And as he's there, he's realizing that they can see him and he can see them. And he kind of just looks around, and Lily Potter, the mother of Harry, points out to his chest and says, "You've been so brave, sweetheart." And Harry looks around and says, "Why are you guys here? All of you." And she says, "We never left." And throughout this whole rest of the conversation, you see Harry says, not just, he doesn't ask, but he tells them, "Stay close to me." And Lily responds with, "Always." If you look throughout the series, it's interesting because Harry's parents are actually always protecting him in some way, shape, or form. They're also always present with Harry, not physically, but here. And also, they've made a promise how they'll always be with him to the end. And that's how we're going to see God in our psalm today. We're going to see that God is a protector. He is also He's present, and he's also our promise. And we see that in Psalm 46. So if you have your Bibles, turn to Psalm 46. But before we read, I want to give some introduction to the psalm. I don't know if you know this, but the term to refer to one individual psalter, the person who wrote the psalm, is actually the term psalter. So the person who wrote Psalm 46 is known to be the psalter of the psalm, which is the sons of Korah. And if you read your psalms before, the sons of Korah are not, new to this writing. They are contributors. They have been there. And it's interesting, though, how they write this. One, they're writing it on our behalf, their behalf, and also Israel's. And on top of Israel's, too, it's also interesting the way they're referencing God. They're referencing God in the way you might know Isaiah 9:6. "For unto us a child is born, should be called Emmanuel," God with us. So the reference to this God is the one to come, the coming Messiah. So it's referencing more on that. And on top of that all, again, the sons of Korah have written this so uniquely, even though it looks, it's so unique. And with that, let's read it. It says, "God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea. Though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. Selah. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy inhabitants of the Most High. God is in the midst of her, and she shall not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. The nations rage, the kingdoms totter. He utters his voice, the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Selah. Come, behold the works of the Lord, how he has brought desolations on the earth. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. And he breaks the bow and shatters the spear. She burns her chariots with fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Selah. Now, first we're going to see how God is our protector in just the first 3 verses. And it's actually just have to look at a few verses, few words to see that. The first word we see is in verse 1, God is our refuge. The word refuge is interesting because it is known to be a place of solid ground. It's a place where you stand, you know it's good, or it's also known as a place you go to be with God. And it's also the attribute of God in his immovability, saying that, we can't move God, only God can move God. So if he is our refuge, he is a place where he cannot move, only God can move it. Therefore, it will always be there. So he's providing a place that will never move to protect us. And he talks about being a very present help in trouble. So it's talking about that this fortress, this refuge, will always be there. It's not just here and there. You have to, I have to count the calendar to make sure it's going to be there. It's going to be there. And we see this, and again, the Psalter said this perfectly. It's kind of a bold statement, like, okay, the God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. But what's your reasoning? What's your point for that? And we see that in verse 2, the word therefore. The word therefore, actually, how it's being used, if you look at the Bible, you use it in the way of saying it because of that. The word therefore is being used to say what is being said before, this is the reason why. So we put the word therefore out, but because of that, it says this. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Because of that, we will not fear, though the earth gives way. Verse 2 is saying this is the qualifications or the reasons why the Lord is a refuge and strength. And it's not just verse 2 is saying this is just the only reason. It's all of the psalm. It's all of it. And the next important word we see in verse 2, that the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved. The word moved in Hebrew, by the way, I took Hebrew, so I kind of feel like I'm pro at it. But so the word moved is actually translated to the word shake. Think about it. Let's replace some words. It says, though the mountains shake into the heart of the sea. Now what this is saying is that, when you stand on a solid ground and, you stand on it and something hits it, it's pretty good. But sometimes we don't go to God in refuge. We stand on a mountain that we built. And it's not godly, it's not a refuge. So when waters hit the side, we're going to fall. Because we've built a mountain, we've built this refuge. But no matter what refuge we built, it will always fall in the heart of the sea, which is the chaos, the troubles of the world. But if we stand on God in refuge, in him, the one that stands, does not move, we will never have to fall. We will never fall. We will stand permanent. We see that. In verse 3, again, it talks about the waters roar. Now, roar is actually not a translation, but it's a reference to God being a cosmic warrior, or being the cosmic protector. He's been there. He can use his creation to bend it for his glory. Because, if you build something, if you made something before, you know how it works. You know how it operates. So God created creation. He then knows, therefore, how to use it for his glory. And again, this is how we see God as a protector, by giving us a place that will never move. And in verse 3, the very last indent, we see the word Selah. Selah is important. In Psalms, it's used in 2 different ways. First way is listing a stanza, because it's songs, so it's just first stanza, but it's also be used to be a place to pause. And with that, I would like to share a story. So it was my junior year at Moody. People said, your junior year is the hardest year at Moody. I'm like, okay, really, is it? It is, especially the last 2 weeks of school, the last second semester. I didn't just have finals, I had final papers, and let alone, again, Hebrew grammar, where I had to memorize all over 2 in Hebrew. So I was kind of stressed. There was a lot going on, And on top of that, the last 2 weeks, mid-April, I get a call from my mom saying my mom passed away. Now, if you know my family, it's a very small family. We don't have a lot of people in it. I can count how many people I'm related to by my hands. Like, that's all. And I've never gone through this before. I didn't know how to face this, and I was really struggling. And I didn't know what to do, figuring this out. So that was starting the second week. That 1 week went by, and as the week went by, it was Saturday. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sleep in. Get up at 10. I'm like, okay, this is not sleeping in. And I get up, I look at my phone, and I see it, and I'm like, okay, it says and I kind of like do a double take. Because we're in Chicago, it's mid-April, and it says it's 75 degrees, sunny, and clear. And I'm like, I'm putting all the homework away, and I'm just gonna go to the beach. My roommate says, oh, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to the beach. He's like, how long? I'm like, I don't know, I'm just gonna go. And as I'm going there, I reach the beach near Moody, and it's really weird because, I just crossed Michigan Ave, which is super busy. I'm pretty sure like 20 cars have already honked since I was at that light. And I get to the beach, and I get to the middle of the beach where I want to sit. And that alone was interesting because there was no people there, and it's a beautiful day. I'm like, why is anyone here? But then I realized I have no distractions. And then as I sat there, I looked down and I saw the water, and there was nothing there. I didn't see anything. So it looked like the water's ending. I know there's something there, but it just felt like finally for once there was something in front of me that wasn't in my way. There wasn't an assignment, there wasn't something I had to do. It was just clear. And as I sat there, I then, for the very first time ever, didn't hear the city. And I realized that at that moment, I wasn't just got lucky to find quiet time in the city of Chicago. God was present with me. He was not just there, he was with me, dwelling among me, he was helping me. He was in the midst of these emotions that I've never known how to bear. He was there. And as I sat there, I realized that he's always been there for me. Like he's done this time, and this time. And that's what we're going to see as we move on. And we see that in verse 4. Now, verse 4 is always interesting. I feel like verse 4 doesn't get a good reputation. Because in this psalm, there's that verse, verse 10, be still. Be still. So good, feels great. But when you run to that, you miss the hidden gem. And that's verse 4. Verse 4 is so good. It says, there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy heavens of the Most High. What it is saying there is interesting because this is actually to Genesis 2:10 through 14. And if you know your Genesis 1 through 3 timeline, you know sin has not yet hijacked the garden. So this is not just a place of God being dwelling. He's pure, it's holy, there's nothing there in the way. It's forever God is there present, there's no matter of doubt, there's no something that's trying to get into it, it's pure. This is a reminder that as once God dwelt among us pure and holy, we can be in God's presence pure and holy. We see the next that God is in the midst of her in verse 5. She shall not be moved or shaken. Used in the same way, God will help her when morning dawns. The nations rage and the kingdoms totter. Now the word move we're using again, shake. So it talks about how you're standing on something and it's shaking. I don't know if you've ever done that. It's not fun, standing on something that's shaking. But because this is something it's something about something's moving and it's uncomfortable. But then the Psalter goes on to say, you know what? Yes, God will move even though the world, even though when we are standing upon a mountain that we built and we are moving and we might fall, God is still with us, but he wants us to go to refuge with him. Go on to his mountain that's forever there, for where he is present. And he's saying, the Psalter is saying that God will even, in verse 6, the kingdoms totter. Now, the lowercase kingdoms are not God's kingdom, but the kingdoms of this world. The word totter is actually a reference to something or a translation to something swaying back and forth. So this is not just like God moving your life because you're doing, God is moving, not just moving, he's pushing the thing, it's kind of like a swing. He's doing it. Now, again, The reason why I say I don't like standing on things because I have experience for that. Again, I went to Moody Founders Week 2015. Ren Collective was coming to lead worship Friday night. And it was tradition at Moody Church at night. Students would sit on the balcony and everyone else would sit on the bottom. I don't know how that happened, it just happened. And as we were there, we're in collective worship leader, we were watching him and he starts jumping. So of course, as we as college students decide, let's jump with him. So we all start to jump. And 3 seconds in, the balcony moves. And right when we all felt to move, we all just stopped. And right when we all just stopped, you could see the worship leader kind of like do this. After that song, he's like, I can't believe I saw the balcony move. I didn't realize that this is going to be like the last time I would ever going to live. Because because the only thing that's holding the balcony is the walls. There's no pillars. It's an old church. So there's 1,000 of us up there. And we all stopped, not because it was uncomfortable, because we panicked. We're like, oh, are we going to die? Like, what? Like, we just came to hear Ren Collective. Like, what's going to happen? And we were there, but we panicked, so we stopped. And that's what God is telling us to do. That when life is at its hardest time, when life is going back and forth, swinging, where it's going there, we're going there, we don't even know where we're at. God is saying, just if you come to me in refuge, the place where I will be with you, you will never move. You will always be there, present. And I will be there with you. Now, why again, Psalter, that sounds great, but what's your reason for that? What's your purpose for saying this? And verse 7, I think, could have been enough. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. First, when I ask, who is the Lord of hosts? I'm going to geek out, Bible geek right now. So the Lord of hosts is actually it's actually a reference to Yahweh. And it's in 1 Samuel 1:11. This is Hannah talking again. This is Hannah's prayer when she's praying so fast. It looks like a person who comes by thinks she's drunk because she's just so, just pouring out to God. And it says, verse 11, and she vowed a vow to God, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your servant, and remember me, and not forget your servant, but will give to your servant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall touch his head. This reference, this Yahweh, this Lord of hosts, is the one who sees, the one who hears, and is the one that is present. That's the Yahweh that is among us, with us. And on top of that, this is also the best duo with Elohim. It's Yahweh Elohim. Talking about that God, as he dwells among us, he is also a God who sees us and knows what we're going through and is willing to do whatever it takes. He sees our pain. He sees that we're moving. But again, it's a promise of come to me in refuge. Protection in a place of presence. And I see it again, I feel like that should be enough. But the Psalter says, God of Jacob. Now, the God of Jacob, this is what really drives the point home. Because this is the promise we get. The God of Jacob is the God who made a covenant with Israel, saying, I will be their God. I'm going to be their God. That's what's going to happen. And as he says that, if you were making a covenant with someone, you were making a vow. And a vow is also known as a promise. And when you make a promise with someone, if you don't follow through with it, you are then for lying. In Hebrews 6:18, it says, it is impossible for God to lie. Therefore, this covenant that God is making, that he will always be with us, protecting and being present with us, that will always be the thing. Because he's made a covenant. And we see that. Throughout the Bible, we see that time and time again, he was there. Just like how he was with me on the beach. Did I know that when I was going to get there, that I was going to feel God? No. There was a place he let me go. Because I went to the place hoping to be with God. I went to a place to go to refuge, and he was there. He's saying that even though the reason why you should know that I will be there is because I've been there before. And he's willing to do whatever it takes to protect us, and be present with us. And again, he has promised us a promise that can never be broken. Again, we see the word Selah in verse 7. Now, I cannot go a sermon or lesson without talking about Avengers, Endgame, or Marvel, or anything superhero. So, one thing about this movie, 2019, last year, there's a theme called, it was whatever it takes, or whatever the cost. They were willing, the whole mission, the lasting Avengers, were willing to do whatever it took, no matter the cost. And throughout the movie, you actually see these lasting Avengers start making decisions that actually cost their life for this cause of defeating Thanos, the last threat in the whole world. For them to know that they beat him, they won, they don't have to look over their shoulder, that they got it, they won. It's peace. And throughout the movie, there's times where it's like, oh, they got it, and it's like, oh, no, they don't. And then at the very end, Iron Man, Tony Stark, the one who started it all, has the chance to do it. He's got the opportunity to just end Thanos and his army, defend all the threats. And he does it. He snaps and does whatever. He did whatever it took. He did that. The reason why he did that is because he knew that's what it took to bring peace, to bring hope to the world. And that is what God is willing to do for us. In verse 8, we see the word desolations. Come, behold the works of the Lord, how he has brought desolations on the earth. The word desolations in Hebrew is something how God is saying, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to keep you safe and to keep you holy. There's nothing ungodly that will be in your life that will cause you to fall into the heart of the sea, for you to stay with me. And we see that and we know that. And he doesn't like that. He doesn't like having to do whatever it takes. We see that with the flood. You know, God creates everything. It was really good, and then it becomes bad. And then as it goes on, he even says, I will bring a flood, and he mourns. He almost is sorrow that he has to do that. He's doing that not because he's a wrathful God. He's doing that because he wants to protect us. And he wants us to be present, so he can be present with us. He's doing that. And again, we see that when he saved his people from Egypt, you know, sending the plagues, sending there to bring his people to free his people. He's willing to bring down all these plagues onto his creation. And the biggest thing is Sodom and Gomorrah, bringing down fire onto a nation, a place that was unholy, ungodly, because that's what needed to be done. All the ungodly need to be put away so we can be godly with him. Again, God has always and will always be protecting us and is being present with us. Because we know that, because that's the promise he made as being the God of Jacob. Now, as we go on, we talk about like how he's willing to do whatever it takes. You know, he'll do this, he'll do that. But here, Psalter gives us an example. An example of, in verse 9 it says, he makes the wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariots with fire. Now, back then, that's just how they fought. So it's not like, you know, today it's so different. But back then, you know, they had a bow and arrow, a spear, and then chariots. They would move, you know, kind of move around their armies. And back then, the bow and arrow was actually a spear but miniature. So it did the same amount of damage. So they would go there. So he's saying that all the wars, how they fight, I will break every single bow, and I will break every single spear and arrow. And on top of that, for them to not even find another way to fight, I will take down their chariots where they cannot move. He's willing to do whatever it takes to keep us safe, to keep us on a mountain of refuge, not the one we built. He's willing to do that. Now we're at verse 10. Be still and know that I am God. Now I know I made a comment like, verse 4 is the hidden gem, and we talk about be still, and it's great. But it's interesting how be still is being used. Be still is, you know, it's not talking about like be still, like I can be still like this, but I can still say things. I can still, you know, make comments like I usually do, and, you know, I can do that. Being still, what is it? Okay, I'm still. Is that what I need to do? Okay, Psalter, I'm doing it. No, it's not saying be still, like stop. He's saying be still, know that I'm God, and stop playing God. Stop trying, Be still and know that I'm God. That know that I have been God before. So I have protected you in the past. Therefore, you don't need to find protection. I have been present with you in the past. You don't need to find something to be present with you. And the reason why that is because I have promised to you that I will be there. Now, I don't know about you. Even though I know that God, that I am to be still, and that God is my God, He has given me more than I could ever want and hope to dream. However, I still like to play God. I know it's not good, but I play God. I like, when I don't feel, when I don't feel like I'm protected, or I don't feel like I have enough security, I try to go find something or do something to fill that, to feel protected. Part of my mountain. Not the mountain of my mountain, but the mountain of refuge. Not the mountain of refuge, but my mountain. And on top of that, even when I say that, I don't feel like, I don't feel good enough. So I'm like, okay, there's something I feel absent, there's a void, okay, I'm going to find something, it doesn't matter what it is, I'm going to fill it. Therefore, I will feel like something's there. But again, it's okay, I still don't feel good. But then, time and time again, every time I play God, I'm always falling to the heart of the sea. Because time after time, I'm doing what I want. I'm doing things what I think is right. But again, God knows what we need. And it really doesn't matter what we want or what we think we should have. It's only God matters. So He's saying, be still and stop doing what you're trying. Stop trying to fix things by your own strength. Only I can. Stop moving. Stand on me in a refuge that cannot move. I will not move, I will be with you forever. Now, it's easy to say, stop playing God. It's easy to say that because I know that, but I still do it for the last 10 years. I kind of like to have control. But it's interesting, I was talking to my mom about my past and just everything I've been talking about, and I realized that last semester, my mom kept on telling me to stand on the promises of God. And I realized, I'm like, wait, this is Psalm 46. So I need to stand on the promises of God. I was hearing that, but I wasn't really realizing that's what I need to do. Because, we have this thing, especially kids, we don't listen to our parents because we don't want to admit that they're right, but they're right. And I realized that that's what I need to do. And why do we need to do that? Because it's because of these things. To remind ourselves that God is a protector. He is present with us. Not just present with us, but among us. Just like how we look back into the first illustration I used with Harry Potter, He's not here physically. We can't see Him. We can't identify He's right there. But He's with us. Present among us. And also that He's made a promise that He cannot break. And so with all that being said, it's so hard to apply to not play God and to be still. But try this. When life is unstable, stop playing God and just let God be God. Let me pray. Dear Father, thank you for your promise of being with us time and time after again. Even when we don't realize that you're there, you're there. May you help us see you when we can't see you, we can't feel you. Help us to remind us of these three truths of that you are our protector as we seek to you in refuge, that you are present among us, and that also you have made promises that you cannot break. Thank you, Father, and may you bless the rest of this day we have amongst our friends and family. We love you, Lord, so much. In Jesus' name, amen.